Greeting friends, I hope my video have taught you something. So the goal for today is to learn about sequential and concurrent processing. Sequential execution of two programs or the process is referred to as sequential processing, and if two processes are running in parallel, this is referred to as a concurrent or parallel processing. So now we will look at how we can use threads to implement this operation. So, okay. So I'm creating a class here. New, saying its name is sequential thread. Example. Okay. So we already know there is a main thread that starts by the JVM. So this public static main is a main thread which is started by JVM. So anything we call in this method will be executed by that main thread. So I'm creating two class. I'm creating a two classes. One is class process, maybe process 1, and second class called as process. Process 2. Okay, so I am writing a method here, public static void execute. You can call give any name to it. The agenda is to execute two methods sequentially. Okay, so I am just creating a simple loop. I am giving a pause or like providing a sleep time for 100 milliseconds. Okay, and printing out process 1. So we are getting an compilation error. It shows like we have to handle this exception, the interrupted exception. So there are two ways. Either we can add an exception to the method signature, or we can keep it in the try and catch block. So I am just adding throwing the exception through the method. Okay, so same way, this is our first process which have execute method, and now I'm going to write a process 2, and our agenda is to sequentially run these processes, process 1 and then process 2. So I am doing the same thing here. Static you want to make or not, it's all up to you. I am just making it exit static because I will call it from the main method, which is a static method. Okay, so the same thing here. Pausing it for pausing it for 100 milliseconds and printing out some logic. I'm writing some logic here to show like how the process will run sequentially. Okay, so the same add exception to the method signature. Now we have created two process 1 and process 2, and we want to invoke or run this process sequentially. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I will create an instance of process 1. You may be what, like, non-static, because we will call it the instance, and new process. Now first I'm calling this execute method of process 1, and then we'll want to run execute the process to execute. Now you see it's throwing an exception. It's showing to handle this because the exception is thrown from this process, but when this method execute here, this method need to be cached by the main method. So we will add the signature also. Okay. Now we'll run and see how it executes. If we see the out, first the process 1 completes its execution. Once the process 1 done, the process 2 has started and complete the execution. Okay, so these processes are running sequentially by the main thread. Okay, now we'll see how we can implement a parallel thread. So, or maybe the concurrent processing, concurrent process, or concurrent thread example. So here the same thing, I'm writing the same two class process 1. Now you see it's throwing and it's saying duplicate class found, because we already have a class in the same package. So we have to create a class with different name. Okay, so I am saying concurrent process 1. Okay, and concurrent process. Now in the concurrent process 1, now we have to execute that we want to run two process parallelly, so we have to extend it from thread class. Okay, the thread has a thing like we thread. Okay, now we have to override the public run method, because the thread class implements the runnable, and runnable has the run method. Okay, so I'm going to override this method. Public void public void. Okay, and here also you can now the same thing. The same will print 1 to 10. I'm doing the same thing. I just um, put this thread dot sleep method inside the try catch block. Let's throw an exception, interpret exception, which is a thread exception thrown by thread, and then we will do the same thing for, and because previous example we surrounded with throws interpret exception and add that exception in the method signature. Now we are seeing how we can do the same way in the using try and catch block. So now we are writing different implementation of different process. Okay, doing the same at dot sleep for 100 milliseconds and like surround with try catch and system pentalen and pentangate like process 2. Okay, now we have created two processes. Now our main motive is to run this process concurrently. So we have two threads now, thread and thread. Like concurrent process 1, which extend thread, concurrent process 2, which extend third class. Each thread class has a start method. If you see control O, maybe in so here you can see there is a method start, and you can see this start method begin the execution, and the JVM calls the run method of this thread. Okay, the run method which we implemented. So when we start the thread, the JVM will execute the run method. The result is that two threads are running concurrently. The current thread which returns from the code to the start method, and the other thread which executes its run method. Okay, so now we have to start these two threads in the main method, like inside the main thread. We want to say. So the same, creating an object. Okay, now I am starting this thread 1. There are two. If you see, you can call it directly, but if we call it directly, it's not been run concurrently. Okay, we'll see it. We'll also see it, but first we will start. We will invoke the thread by a start method so that this thread execute concurrently. Okay, now let's execute this program. So now you can see there is no sequential execution of these processes, right? Here, first the process 1 run, then process 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and it is not fixed, like every time it's run in the same way, like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. No, it could be possible like it first execute like process 1, process 2, then process 1, 1, again 2. So it is not a fixed pattern that it always execute one by one. No, it depends upon the CPU scheduler, how you set it. There are 6 type of schedulers, like first come first serve basis, the shortest job first, the shortest remaining time first, and on basis of the priority scheduling and the multi-level scheduling. So This time it's running basis on the round robin technique, where each process takes the equal time or turn to process their execution. Hope you like this video. Thank you.